Welcome back to Mock the Mock, where we take a look at someone else's mock draft, and I'm mocking, giving my views, thoughts, and opinions. Got a great one for you today, as Daniel Jeremiah has released a new updated mock draft. Mel Kiper came out with one too, so expect that one tomorrow. But let's go ahead and get into this, as Caleb Williams is pick one here for the Chicago Bears. No longer up for discussion. If you like doing predictive mock drafts, guaranteed you will at least get one pick out of 32, as Caleb Williams will be going to the Chicago Bears. Let's see what happens at pick 2 as Washington goes with Drake May. I think it's funny that the idea that Drake May will be succeeding Sam Howell for like the second time in 3 years. I just find that a little comical. He is QB2 for me. He's QB2 for a lot of people. I think there's considerable difference between him and Jaden Daniels in terms of the upside, in terms of the arm talent. Obviously, Jaden Daniels, there we go, is a considerably better runner, but when it comes to arm talent, I think Drake May is just kind of in another class, and that's not to take anything away from Jaden Daniels' arm. It's just, I think Drake May is that good, or at least his arm talent is that good. You could obviously make the case that, Cliff Kingsbury, you'll probably fancy Jaden Daniels a little bit more. We really don't know that. They've yet to work out for the Commanders. The Commanders have yet to go to their pro days. The pro days will be a couple of weeks from now. So, we will know hopefully more information by then. The New England Patriots go with Jaden Daniels. So we got 3 quarterbacks going in a row here, and it's very interesting what the Patriots can do. Obviously, yesterday I talked about that they could go out and still add talent at tackle, as Trent Brown is still on the market. Well, now he's a Bengal. Literally, like minutes before I released yesterday's Mock the Mock and talked about the possibility of the Patriots picking up like a Trent Brown, bringing him back because he's pretty good when healthy. He gets signed, so kind of is what it is. I do think they could address tackle on day 2, because there's a considerable amount of, in general, offensive line talent. Someone brought this up to me. I always forget that Michael Onwenu will be playing right tackle for them probably. So really, they're just looking at that left tackle position, so they could take a shot at maybe like a Kingsley Sumatea, a Jordan Morgan there early on day 2. So I don't think they're as far in a rebuild as some people think. All right, let's go to the Arizona Cardinals. No, it's a trade, as the Vikings move up for JJ McCarthy. Sorry, Vikings fans, get used to this one, because unless they trade up with the Patriots, this is probably gonna be, the Vikings are probably gonna go with JJ McCarthy, and I think the Vikings even know that. They've already had a private workout with JJ McCarthy. They acquired that second first-round pick, probably to make a move like this to get up in front of a team like the Giants, who, it feels like they're probably in on Daniel Jones at least for one more year, but still, you probably want to get ahead of them just in case. All right, pick 5. We got another trade. Freaking holy guacamole. I do get that the Chargers want to move down, but are you going to move down out of Marvin Harrison Jr.? I don't know about that one, but the Jets getting him would be awesome. I feel like the Jets now acquiring Morgan Moses, acquiring Tyron Smith, that you're in this Super Bowl window, so you want to add immediate playmakers, guys that will come in and immediately have an impact on the roster. I know if you sit at 10, like you could argue like a Troy Fautanu can have that immediate impact, but I feel like it's more geared to them making a move at wide receiver. Them trading up will be interesting. I'm kind of curious what the actual terms of this trade are, but I mean, he's not going to include them in here. He's only doing a first-round mock, so it doesn't really matter. Jets get Marvin Harrison Jr. It's just absolutely nutty. The New York Giants, they go Malik Neighbors with Marvin Harrison just snagged it right in front of him, but that's fine. I think Malik Neighbors is quite the nice consolation prize. Again, I think the Giants are probably in on at least one more year of Daniel Jones. Let's go ahead. Let's surround him with talent. They've already addressed the offensive line via free agency with moves like John Runyon and Jermaine Illuminor. In here, they could address the wide receiver aspect of that, and I think Malik Neighbors would be an awesome addition. All right, pick 7. It's Joe Alt. Again, this is another one that kind of feels like you could pencil in. They released Andre Dillard, so it just feels like in a very tackle-rich first round that the tight ends are probably going to go with the tackle. They can maybe even trade back if they feel really good about this tackle class and maybe acquire some day 2 assets and get, maybe a Troy Fontanu or something. I don't know. We'll see. I think the Titans are in a very interesting situation. The Atlanta Falcons go with Dallas Turner, another one that kind of feels like you could pencil it in. At least them going with the top defender here at 8. This is going to be a popular spot for the first defender to come off the board. The Atlanta Falcons have already made moves offensively where they've acquired Kirk Cousins. They've acquired Rondale Moore and Darnell Mooney. I would still be willing to take a shot on maybe if Rome Odunze still in here. I don't think I'm against. I'd be willing to go in and do that, but I get it. Their edge talent right now is kind of pee poo poo. You can get your pick of the litter, grabbing Dallas Turner, who I think be a really good fit for Raheem Morris's defense. But before we get into pick 9, if you want to know more about these prospects, I got good news. I got a draft guide. We're like 450 prospects deep. If you want full evaluations and backgrounds on some of these guys, go ahead, check that out. I got a nice little promo here for that. Listen, I know you love the NFL draft as much as I do, and you're going to want a nice hefty watch list of players during this college football season. Well, go ahead, check out my draft guide. You can purchase it for only $30 by Venmoing or PayPaling me. Links in the description. It's a one-time payment and you get it for this whole draft cycle and forever and always. Technically, it's a Google spreadsheet. So send me your email when you send the payment. I'll get you hooked up. You will see my current prospect rankings and big board, my full evals. And guess what? It updates throughout the whole draft cycle. So it's a great purchase and it's a great way to support the channel. Pick 9, Chicago Bears go with Rome Odunze. I feel like the Bears are in a good spot if they want to add another playmaker, a wide receiver. They have already added Keenan Allen. They have DJ Moore. You go out, get Rome Odunze here at 9, or Malik Neighbors, whoever really does fall. They might have to trade up, honestly, if they really want one of those guys. But if I'm the Bears, I don't mind sitting back. Hey, if Rome Odunze goes ahead of this, then shoot, Bears, just trade back. Acquire more draft capital. You're kind of light on draft capital in this class because they don't have a second round pick yet. So see what you can do to acquire more draft capital. I think the Bears are in a good position to kind of like sit back and be like, okay, let's just kind of let the draft come to us. And if we have to trade back, then cool, we can definitely trade back. But they get Rome Odunze here, that's kind of ideal. Chargers, they trade back with the Jets. They get Talanisa Fuaga, so they get that right tackle position in order. I'm not sold on Pipkins as their right tackle of the future. Some people are like, well, he's fine enough. It's like, yeah, but I mean, this is a very good tackle class. And if you want to acquire more draft capital, though the Jets are kind of limited on draft capital, I'm kind of curious how this trade looks and would work out. But I mean, because if you're acquiring draft capital from the Jets, it probably means you're acquiring draft capital in 2025 and not necessarily this draft, which is still fine. But they grab Fuaga. Big fan of Fuaga. The Arizona Cardinals, they moved back. The Vikings moved up. They get Jared Verse here. They definitely need more edge talent. I'd also be willing to take like Quinion Mitchell. If they're not going to take wide receiver here, then, or if they're not going to take wide receiver at 4, or if they feel like, hey, let's just grab some extra draft capital, it does put them in a good position to maybe go with the top defender here and then maybe take like Adonai Mitchell or a Brian Thomas Jr. at pick like 23 or pick 27. Again, kind of depends how the draft falls out. Is that the word I'm looking for? The draft plays out. There we go. That's much better. Pick 12, Denver Broncos stay put and take Brock Bowers. This one is a little interesting because I'd be willing. I feel like if you're They need a quarterback, man. You can't just go into the season with like Jarrett Stidham as your unquestioned starter. You got to add someone else, right? You got to add someone else, and you're working with limited draft capital. This is kind of an ideal spot to trade back and maybe just take that quarterback a little bit later in the first round. But Brock Bowers is fabulous. I'm a big fan of Brock Bowers. They did bring back Adam Troutman. Hey, that wouldn't stop me. Adam Troutman, it's not like he's all that impressive, but I know he's a favorite of Sean Payton. So, I don't know. A little interesting. The Raiders go with Michael Penix here, man. I haven't seen Michael Penix as a first round prospect in a mock in quite some time, and honestly, I'm quite happy to see it. Like, I'm a big fan of Michael Penix. I'm not willing to take him here. I see him more as a early second round player. I heard he interviewed really well. The medicals checked back really nicely, but I mean, I don't know, man. I'm kind of curious if Bo Nix or Michael Penix kind of like rear the head somewhere in the first round. And if anything, I imagine it would be with the Broncos pick. So it is interesting. And I mean, now you're going to have 3 quarterbacks on the roster. I mean, of course, you're going to have like an emergency quarterback, but like, and you know, Aiden O'Connell, it's not like the highest upside player there. That's why you brought in Gardner Minshew. I don't know, man. I think the Raiders are out on quarterback in the first round, at least in this class. Olu Fashanu is a fabulous pick here for the New Orleans Saints. Trevor Penn has not worked out. So apparently the news has been positive with Ryan Ramczyk, but still you worry about him long term. So tackle kind of becomes of a big spot. They did acquire Chase Young on a 1-year deal, so they're at least gonna ride with him for 1 year and see if that helps the pass rush a little bit. But good pickup here by the Saints. Honestly, just insert tackle at this pick kind of feels like the right move. Indianapolis Colts, they go with Quinion Mitchell. We get the first corner off the board. I love Quinion. He'd be a great pickup here for the Colts. The Colts are also a team in a very good position where it's like, hey, Brock Bowers is here, great. If Quinion Mitchell's here, great. Hey, if we have to take like a Brian Thomas, we feel great about that. It's all great. It's all fine. It's A-okay. Colts are in a great position, honestly. Big fan of this Quinion pick. Seattle Seahawks, they go with Troy Fautanu out of Washington. Ryan Grubb picks up his former player, and I imagine you're going to be playing him at guard because their right guard spot's kind of wide open. They brought in Tremaine Ingram, or however you say it. That's probably not a viable starter. You probably want to look to upgrade that. And I mean, with the injuries you had at tackle last year, it'd be nice to have a guy that can kick out a tackle. I mean, honestly, I would want to start Fautanu off at tackle and ride with that, but I get it. Your guard position's kind of pee poo poo. I feel like Seattle's probably a prime candidate to trade down, if anything. But again, you need a dancing partner if you're going to trade down. That's kind of the big question here. But before we get into pick 17, got to give a shout out to Underdog Fantasy. When you sign up using promo code Broshmo, they will double your first deposit up to $100 due. So if your first deposit is $100 and you use promo code Broshmo to sign up, they will give you a $200 to play with. Hey, and we got March Madness. Best believe Underdog Fantasy will be in on the action. So if you want to get in on the action, sign up, use promo code Broshmo. But please bet responsibly, bet within your means. Pick 17, Terry and Arnold going to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Corner kind of feels like the pick here. They've made obviously they bring in Gabe Davis. I don't think that discounts them from going with a wide receiver, but it does look like corner might be the more beneficial area to go for the Jags, considering your other starter outside of Tyson Campbell will be Ronald Darby. You're probably going to look for a little more competition, a little more youth there. And you're probably going to be in good position to get corner 2 in this class at 17. I wouldn't say Jacksonville is necessarily... I mean, I honestly think they could be in the market to trade up if they do want a Quinion Mitchell. They could be in the market, honestly, to go after L'Jarius Sneed if he gets moved at all. And then the Cincinnati Bengals, they did just sign Trent Brown. Matter of fact, that he comments on that right now. But I mean, it's a 1-year deal. Who the heck cares? It's a 1-year deal. You take J.C. Latham, where some of the NFL sees him as a guard, and you can honestly play him at either guard spot. I imagine left guard in this instance, because like Volson, I think is probably their lesser starter compared to Kappa. But J.C. Latham probably be the long-term answer at right tackle. And again, Trent Brown's a guy that you can't trust to necessarily stay healthy. Like when healthy, he's really good, but you can't trust him to stay healthy. For me, this pick for the Bengals just makes too much sense with all the talented tackle in the first round for them to take a tackle here. Pick 19, the Rams go Latu. I think that's a solid pick up here. I do think Latu goes in the first round some way, somehow, or he goes in the top 20, I should say. He's absolutely going in the first round, but question is, where would he go in the top 20? I've said I think I could see him going as early as pick 8 to the Falcons, but then you have guys like Jared Verse and Dallas Turner, who are definitely a lot more compelling as athletes. But when it comes to Latu and what he can do as a technician, how he already feels like a seasoned NFL veteran, he could be a very good pick. Especially, I mean, they already got speed opposite of Latu in the form of Byron Young. So, good pick. Pittsburgh Steelers, they go with Tyler Guyton here. So, no Amarius Mims. NFL probably is going to be pretty high on Guyton because you look at his ceiling and you look at how coachable he was at the Senior Bowl, and you're just going to love that. Teams are going to eat that up. And I mean, the Steelers did get a front row seat at Tyler Guyton at Mobile, so could be in the cards here. You move Broderick Jones to left tackle, and you feel good about it. And let's be honest, Steelers, they don't take wide receivers in the first round. At least they haven't, and they've shown great success at developing wide receivers fairly quickly on day 2. I mean, look at George Pickens, Deontay Johnson, Juju Smith-Schuster, Antonio Brown. They just have a long history of doing that. Miami Dolphins go with Graham Barton. This is probably the first team I could see taking Graham Barton. This is probably the highest I'll have Graham Barton in any of my mocks. And I talk about him as a guy I see that's just inching higher and higher on my board just because of that versatility. And because of teams that are kind of needy on the interior, because you're going to look at him as a guard or a center, not what he can really do at tackle, but you appreciate that flexibility, that versatility. And the Dolphins need some guys on the offensive line. So Graham Barton would be right up their alley. They could also be in the market to take the first defensive interior player with Christian Wilkins going to Vegas. Philadelphia Eagles go with Nate Wiggins, another one that's kind of easy to chalk up in here. You look at the secondary of the Eagles and just how they really haven't addressed it. And yeah, you're like, yeah, they could probably add some guys there. Do I believe the Eagles will do that? No, the Eagles typically do what we least expect. Whether it's them moving up, them moving down, but they do typically take the best player on the board. Nate Wiggins is going to be interesting. How does the NFL feel about his physicality? He was up to 182 at his pro day, but still you don't see that physical nature on tape. But he's a wonderful athlete and one of the youngest corner prospect in this class. Pick 23, the Cardinals take Brian Thomas. This is what I was talking about earlier with their pick. You could absolutely take a wide receiver later in the first round. And I mean, you have 3 first-round picks now at your disposal after a trade down. And I think it's a really good option. I think the Cardinals are totally in play to make a move like that with the Minnesota Vikings. And in this scenario, they get Brian Thomas after acquiring Jared Verse. Now you maybe want to look at corner. I feel maybe a little bit better if they took corner early, like a Quinion Mitchell, and then maybe look at edge. Maybe it's like Chop Robinson or such there later in the first round. We'll see what they do at pick 27. I am definitely going to be intrigued, but I like this. I like how this played out for the Cardinals. Dallas Cowboys take Jackson Powers Johnson. This is kind of the ideal pick for the Cowboys. You lose Tyler Biadasz to the Commanders. You just want to start rebuilding that offensive line, and you can do so in a cheap way by using a pick here on Jackson Powers Johnson. Does he make it here? That's going to be the question. I would like it if it were to play out this way for the Dallas Cowboys. Green Bay Packers take Marius Mims. Oh, very, very interesting. Marius Mims. I love the upside of Mims. Really do. It's going to be tempting. I had him going into the season as a top 10 talent, just assuming that he was going to kind of break out this year. And we did see a little bit of a breakout, but injury kind of like limited that for him. So he's a guy with not a ton of starting experience, and you're probably going to see him as more of a developmental project. Maybe not necessarily a guy you can maybe start out the gates, or you can, because the guy's got the tools. He's got the tools. Packers, they love those RAS guys, those relative athletic score guys. Mims is going to have a very high score. But the Packers also a team that doesn't usually take offensive linemen in the first round. I don't know. It'll be very fascinating to see what happens here. It truly will be. But before we get into pick 26, I gotta to say what's crack-a-lackin'. It's your boy Broshmo, just in case you did not know. So go ahead, become bro and subscribe. Leave this video a thumbs up if you enjoy the content. As always, let me know what you think in the comment section below, where we have that nice, beautiful football discourse. Let's go ahead and get into pick 26. Tampa Bay Buccaneers take Darius Robinson. Haven't seen Robinson really talked about as a first rounder as of late. The testing wasn't exactly ideal, but you really like what you saw at the Senior Bowl. You like what he put on tape. The Bucs need some edge help, so makes sense. He's a different type of pass rusher than what they really have currently in like Yaya Diaby and Joe Tryon. At pick 27, the Cardinals go with Byron Murphy. I just don't see this being likely, just because how much they've invested financially in free agency on the defensive interior. I may not love what they did, but I mean, based on what they did, just tells me they probably won't go with defensive interior in the first round. But then again, you have 3 picks. You don't look a gift horse in the mouth, man. Let the talent fall to you and just take talent. Just take the best players on the board. Just increase that threshold of talent on your roster. That's just so much. That's just lacking so much. So I'm not against the move. I am not against the move one bit. Buffalo Bills go with Drizon Newton. This has been something I've talked about. Now with the Bills, they've invested a little bit in wide receiver, in Curtis Samuel, in Mac Hollins. So maybe they could go with defensive interior. They could definitely use more guys there. Some people would be turned off by the size of Johnny Newton. Be like, he feels more like Ed Oliver, and they'll probably feel like they need more meat there. Drizon Newton's coming in at plus 300. I think I'm okay with the move. I get you want to get size, but the guys with size in this draft class, you either get like Tavondre Sweat somewhere in the second round, or you're waiting until day 3 to grab some of these guys just because they're not highly rated prospects. That's kind of where the size is, and that's usually what happens with size on the interior. They're typically just not highly sought out prospects. So if you are gonna add like girth on the interior, you probably should do it via free agency. But I do like Drizon Newton, and I mean, he is a very good run defender. So yeah, I like it for Buffalo. Detroit Lions go with Kool-Aid McKinstry. I like this. I'm kind of wondering, can he be a Dan Campbell guy, just because there's going to be questions about his physicality, though. I like what he did in the run game at Alabama. Like, he's very sure tackler, doesn't always come downhill with that head full of steam to defend the run. But if the play comes to him, he's a sure tackler. I'm a big fan of Kool-Aid McKinstry. I like him quite a bit. I think Cooper DeJean probably may be more in play here for the Detroit Lions. But the Lions, man, they can do a lot with this pick, whether it's edge. Honestly, I think wide receiver could be in play right here for the Detroit Lions. Maybe get an Adonai Mitchell. I think that would be very intriguing. Baltimore Ravens, they go Cooper DeJean, man. Dude's talented. The dude is talented. Adding him to that cornerback room, oh golly, I love that. I just love the idea of that. This was a team that was very quarters heavy. Cooper DeJean coming from a very zone heavy system there at Iowa. So you already feel good about his like coverage discipline. And I mean, those Iowa defensive backs, they're always very disciplined in coverage. So this would be a good pickup for the Ravens. We got Chop Robinson going to the 49ers, man. Niners could go in a variety of different ways here. They did just lose Chase Young, or really did make an effort to re-sign him. They did bring in Leonard Floyd, but he's only on a 2-year deal. They brought in Yatir Gross-Matos. Not a huge fan of him. So maybe they look for a little bit more depth at the edge position. They do have Drake Jackson. I'm kind of curious how they feel about him. I think they actually really like Robert Beal too, who they drafted last season. So maybe they don't go edge. I think corner might be a bit more likely, but I mean, you already have 5 corners off the board at this point. So I don't know, man. I don't know. Niners are going to be an interesting team. And the Kansas City Chiefs, they go with Adonai Mitchell. Picture perfect. Great addition. They did acquire Hollywood Brown. You get Adonai Mitchell here, who's a very savvy route runner and a guy that can be that vertical, big body, deep threat. He has that in his arsenal. And you already seen good returns from Rashee Rice, and suddenly you're feeling really good about the wide receiver core. Suddenly it feels like, oh man, watch out, Patrick Mahomes has weapons again. So I like that pick. I still think wide receiver is largely in play for the Chiefs just because, I mean, it's Hollywood Brown who's on a 1-year deal and Rashee Rice, and that's about it. So I like this pickup for the Chiefs, but that's it for DJ's mock draft. If you want rankings for the 2024 NFL draft class, I've already done quarterback. I've already done defensive tackle. So go ahead, check those videos out. But as always, do the YouTube thing. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. And as always, until next time, you be easy, my friends. Later.